You don't go to school, you can't be educated.
New details about the 16 Siders children and the paper trail that suggests someone was searching for them long before they were ever found.
So when we're talking reading and writing and education, we're talking a whole nother level of expectations here.
I have the explosive records that reveal this story began long before we thought it did, plus the big move made by the judge to stop people from talking about the case. I'm Angenette Levy, and this is Crime Fix. We have a lot to discuss with the Siders case out of Ohio, a lot. We've uncovered some new details, and the judge has actually signed a gag order, preventing the people involved in the case on the prosecution side or the defense from talking about it. But first of all, I've been telling you that Children's Services in one Ohio county had been in touch with members of the Siders family. Well, now we have documents showing there was not only concern by Children's Services about the Sider children, but also grave concern on the part of the school district where the Siders children were supposed to attend school. And that concern goes back years. It's been exactly 2 weeks since deputies in Vinton County, Ohio, went to the home where Elizabeth Siders and her husband, Gary Siders Jr., were living. They went there to execute a search warrant as they investigated a crime. What deputies and Ohio BCI agents found was not what they were expecting. They said they found 16 children ranging in age from 1.5 to 18 inside the home on Omer Street. The children, according to the state attorney general, were not in good shape.
Through that right now, some of these children couldn't even speak. Yeah, so I mean, we're talking. This is very. It was terrible. I mean, they looked like almost feral animals. It was terrible. So when we're talking reading and writing and education, we're talking a whole nother level of expectations here. Like it's hard enough just to get these kids to be able to the 18-year-old can't spell it.
Since that press conference, we've learned that some of the older children have social media accounts, but just how much they can spell and write remains a question. Thankfully, the children have all been released from the hospital. They're with foster families. The house on Omer Street remains taped off by crime scene tape. The conditions inside have been described as something you wouldn't even see in a third world country. Videos circulating online show the filth in the house. The children were kept in a 12 by 12 room, according to the sheriff.
As I was saying, most of our livestock was kept in better conditions than the children. It was extremely high presence, I'm sure, of bacterial and human feces. It was just a disgusting scene.
Can I ask the both of you, what did you feel like walking through there? Not necessarily what it looked like on the description, but what was going through your mind?
So it was disgusting even where the kids weren't. I would think it's typical. Most law enforcement have experience with homes in a similar fashion. A large number of people, though, the children were kept in a roughly 12 by 12 area that it seems like is where they've spent the most of the last 4 years, and that's what it looks like. In a weird way, you're hit with two emotions. There is joy when we realize that we're about to change 16 lives for the better. But you're also, it's hard.
4 Siders family members, Gary Siders Sr. and his wife Christina Lynn Siders, along with their son Gary Jr. and his wife Elizabeth Siders, face 16 counts of child endangering. They've all pleaded not guilty to the charges. Gary Sr. has been released from jail and placed in a hospital after he fell and a more serious condition was discovered. The last we heard, he was still in the hospital. The Vinton County prosecutor says the children were found in the house, but that the family was not from Vinton County.
I want to stress that our focus right now is on the safety of the children. These kids are being evaluated medically, and we're trying to get them placed, and that is our primary concern right at this point. I also want to stress this is not conduct that is acceptable in Vinton County. These individuals were not from Vinton County. This is not appropriate and certainly is not reflective of the Vinton County values.
Now, I've told you that the family was originally from Gallia County. Gallia is the county south of Vinton, and records show the family moved to Vinton County about 4 years ago. And there was likely a reason for that move. The puzzle pieces here, they're fitting together. They are painting the picture. It's becoming very clear. I've been telling you for the last week that Children's Services had been looking into the Siders family. That look at them started in Gallia County back in 2021. The juvenile court in Gallia County went looking for the Siders after the older children didn't show up for school. The Siders' home at that time was on Honeysuckle Drive in Cheshire. That's the address listed on the court documents. These records show that in October 2021, complaints had been filed against Elizabeth and Gary Siders because 6 of their children were considered truant, meaning they were chronically absent from school. The complaint states the child's name, which we have blacked out. Then it states that Gary and Elizabeth have failed to cause said child to attend some school or class as required by law. The child has been absent from school without legitimate excuse for the entire 2021-2022 academic year to present an amount in excess of 72 hours for the school year, and as such is thereby a habitual truant. Now, this truancy complaint is for 6 of the 16 Siders children. Of course, some weren't even born yet. The oldest at that time would have been 13. In the state of Ohio, it's illegal to not send your children to school. Parents have a duty and an obligation to ensure their child is in school. The statute states that parents whose children are determined to be habitually truant and do not get their kids to school can face fines or even child neglect charges. Eventually, the complaints were terminated in January of 2022. A document states the court finds that Elizabeth Siders is unable to be served and the whereabouts of Elizabeth Siders are unknown to the court. Therefore, it is hereby the order of the court that the above matter be terminated until the availability of Elizabeth Siders. The same document was filed for Gary Jr., the named father of the children. The court couldn't find Gary and Elizabeth or the children. The children had to have been registered for school, but the school district said they never attended, not even for a day, it would seem. That raises the question, had the Siders already moved in 2021? Were they still in Gallia County, or had they already moved to Vinton County? I have found records showing that Elizabeth had a P.O. box in Hamden as early as 2020, and she and her family are listed as living in this house on Main Street in Hamden before they moved a short distance away to the home on Omer Street. People have been drawn to that house. I met several there over the weekend. They don't understand how something like this could happen.
Just curious about this whole situation, because how can a whole family live like that and no one know it? I wanted to see how close were neighbors. Usually in small towns, neighbors are friendly with each other, so how would you not know what's going on?
You live a couple counties away, right?
Yes, in Lawrence County.
So you live in Lawrence County. You came out here to see what was going on. This is out in the southeastern part of the state. Is it common for people to live like this with 16 children, filth, that you are aware of?
I mean, there are definitely places in each county, I'm sure, that have large families that have trouble taking care of everybody, that CPS doesn't know about and doesn't step in. And I think every county probably has some of that going on. It's just usually neighbors help take care of you, though. That's the best thing about living in a small town. Everybody knows everybody, so how would you not know that's going on?
As the investigation into the Siders continues and the prosecutor prepares the case for grand jury, the case is catching the eye of legislators in the state's capital.
On June 30th in Vinton County, we had an unprecedented situation where 16 children at one home at one time were added to the temporary custody of that county, more than doubling the number of children in needing care in that community. We are requesting $1 million in emergency resources to be made available specifically for the care of these children. I've been doing this in one capacity or another for 40 years. I've never seen anything like this. This is to have kids that would be off the radar. A child off the radar is troubling enough. 16 kids in one family in one household, to be off the radar is something that I've just not seen.
Ohio's Controlling Board approved sending $1 million to the Department of Youth and Children in Southeast Ohio to help care for the Siders children. That amount could just be a drop in the bucket, though.
These kids are safe. They are being cared for. They are receiving treatments and we expect there to be a lot more services that these children will need to address the traumas that they've received. And some of these things they'll probably be dealing with for life.
So to discuss all of these new revelations, I want to bring in Ron O'Brien. He is the former elected prosecutor of Franklin County, Ohio. That's the state's capital. Columbus is in Franklin County. Ron, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, very glad to.
So, Ron, what is your reaction to the fact that we have these truancy complaints that have come to light out of Gallia County? We knew the family was originally from Gallia County, but back in 2021, October of 2021, the school district's going to court and saying these kids haven't been to school all year long, and then they can't track the parents down or the kids down.
Yes, and at least that would be the proper step to take when the school district or children's services learn that there are children not attending school at all. Usually, the truancy cases we've had over the years are children that are excessively truant, and there's a statutory definition on different levels of absences, but it's somewhat rare to have children not at all going to school, and that's what happened here. And when they learned about it, apparently they filed a complaint in the Gallia County Court. But like any other court document, you have to get service, and they couldn't get service, is what I understand was the problem, number one. And number two, when they did try and find them, they were unable to find them either at different locations.
These kids in October of 2021, according to the court document, they hadn't been to school all year at all. So that's quite a long time. And in order to be truant, you would first have to be registered as a student in the school district, correct?
Yes, you'd have to register in the school district and be assigned to a specific school and then attend. And if they are at least excessively late, tardy, or truant, then there's a truancy officer that is to attempt to contact the parents. And apparently, in trying to contact them, they weren't able to do so, and that's why they filed the complaint.
You know, truancy, many things come with that. The kids can be in danger. In this case, the prosecutors would say these kids were definitely in danger. Their parents are now facing child endangering charges. It appears from everything we can see, just from the outside looking in, that there was not an effort, certainly not in Vinton County, to send these children to school, which is confounding to me because sending your kids to school, if you're low income, a lot of times the schools have services for the kids. A lot of times that's where kids get their meals. It's sad to say, but it's true.
No, that's exactly right. And at least I started actually a truancy program, even though you would think a district attorney would not focus on truancy. But I was finding that the people who were 15, 16, and 17, we were binding over for trial as an adult, that their first contact was a truancy charge. Whether it was a robbery, a burglary, or a homicide, their first contact with the court was truancy. And my thought process was, if we can get them into school and get them graduated, that will help both with employment. And I believed correctly that it would prevent them from starting down that road of crime. But you have to go through a registration process and have it approved by the school district and others that you're going to homeschool the children, and that wasn't done either. Now, mom had may claim that they were homeschooling him, but you can't just say under Ohio law, I'm homeschooling them. I didn't contact the school district, and I didn't register the necessary requirements. So at least it was completely AWOL from the system, either through homeschooling or otherwise.
I want to go back to what you were saying about the importance of showing up in school and that link that you found between juveniles committing crimes and being truant. that's often the first step on their way into the juvenile criminal justice system. I know that when I worked in local news in Cincinnati, a lot of the school districts formed teams, at least a few of them did that I was aware of, where they would go visit the child's home, just knock on the door if they weren't attending school or if they had a couple of days absences, and just say, hey, is there anything you need? Do you need some help? Is everything okay? And it was like a social worker, some member of the school district. And they did this because it is so important. And often the schools are the first ones to notice that something is going wrong with the children, whether it's neglect, abuse, or other issues.
No, that's exactly right, and at least what we found. And I had that truancy program, and it did the same kinds of things. And sometimes we found that mom and dad or a single parent went to work early in the morning and buying an alarm clock for the children so that they could get up and get out in front of the house at the school bus stop was solving the problem of truancy. Sometimes you had parents that were drug abusers, and we would try and get them into a drug treatment program, and that was the source of the problem. Other times, parents didn't really value education and the key to the future for the children, and some educational opportunities, and emphasizing to the parents that the kids really needed to be in school solve the problem. So you have to take a proactive effort, as apparently they did in Cincinnati, and we did back in those days now.
This case, the children not being in school is a red flag enough. That's a major red flag right there. But Ron, have you ever in your career, your lengthy career as a prosecutor, seen a family that just simply doesn't send their children to school, and just squirrels them away? It appears they just have the kids, according to what the prosecutors have said, hidden in the house. I don't know if I've ever heard of such a thing.
Well, I would have to say that I've seen it before, but not with 16 kids. And that's
Really?
so amazing to me in this entire case, that people in Gallia County, people in Vinton County, neighbors, people at the gas station, grocery store, and whatever, no one in a small village of only 200 was aware that there were 16 kids behind the closed doors of that home. And that just kind of boggles your mind. And on top of which, this issue of schooling, issue of the small facility where they were being kept, it just is amazing as the facts unfold.
What do you think? I'm asking you to speculate a little bit, but what do you think was at the root of this? Because I went out to the neighborhood over the weekend. You can't get in the house. The crime scene tape is still up, obviously. You can't go in there anyway, but there have been some images leaked online, and it's a mess. It's not even a mess. That's not even an appropriate term. It's like a mess on steroids times 50 from what we've seen online. What on earth is going on that you've got kids and even adults living in this type of environment?
It just is, I have seen it with several children, but not as bad as it's been described by the authorities in Vinton County and the Attorney General's office. And secondly, it's just, as they said, a horrific kind of circumstance. And it's just, as I say, boggles my mind how it escaped detection up till this point in time, which actually they wouldn't have found it, but for there was some criminal charges filed on the younger siders that they were investigating, and went out there with a search warrant.
Yeah, and it's our understanding that the search warrant is separate from the public indecency charges, and it's the search warrant was not related to the abuse. We're still kind of digging around and poking around on that a little more because they won't tell us what the search warrant was for. But it is confounding that they were able to keep these kids hidden for so long. Do you think, in your view, that there will be more charges other than the child endangering charges filed against people in this family? It hasn't gone to grand jury yet, but it will.
I have to think that there will be more charges that will arise from this. And again, that is not a whole lot more than speculation based on the facts that are known, though. And it just seems to me that there had to have been issues within the home, between the children, between the parents, with the grandparents. But as I say, that's not based on a specific fact. It's only an opinion based on what we do know and what I've seen over the years.
And now the state legislature is sending $1 million down there to Child Protective Services. It's the Department of Youth and Children now. I mean, $1 million, it's good, it'll help, but some lawmakers were voicing concerns that the Children's Services was just not funded properly for a long time. Is more funding really the issue here if you're sending people out and they go to an address and they simply can't find the people?
Well, I would tell you this, that historically there are 88 counties in Ohio, as you know, and Vinton County is always at the bottom of the list on being the poorest county in Ohio. So at least the tax base based on that it would be low. And secondly, I would think that their primary goals would be the criminal justice kind of issues, the sheriff's office and the courts. And I don't know anything more than that they're a poor county, and therefore they probably have budgetary restraints. But certainly, somehow, somewhere, these folks and their children, if not at a hospital that has delivered 10 kids over a period of a few years, would maybe have even a mandatory duty to report the circumstances and situation to the authorities for them to look at it. Obviously, in Gallia County, it came to their attention by virtue of the lack of attendance, and that's 5 years ago. So within the last 5 years, somebody somewhere should have been looking to the circumstances of these children and their parents.
And that's a question I've been raising. If you go to the hospital and you have baby after baby after baby after baby, and you're not employed, it appears they're not employed. Like, does the hospital have a duty to say, like, how are you taking care of these kids?
Well, at least I think it's a legitimate question to ask, and I got to think they were on some kind of support, whether it's food stamps
Right.
or otherwise, and so you have to register for that at Jobs and Family Services. So at least somewhere along the line, and maybe, and I think it's true in some of the smaller counties, people are less nosy, if you want to call that, about the papers and intentionally say what's it's not my business. But here with 16 kids, and there were two others, as you know, that were born that died shortly after. They were conjoined twins. That somewhere having 18 kids over 18 years. Now there were multiple births and twins, but still that would cause somebody with that information, be it hospitals, OBGYNs, medical doctors that looked at a mom, prenatal, all those kind of factors fit into it.
Yeah, it's confounding, this whole thing. And when I was in town over the weekend, somebody told me they would come into the Dollar General store and pay with, they called it a food card, which that's like that EBT card. But the question is, who was that card registered to? And we're still trying to get to the bottom of that. Right now, the prosecutor has said, at least as of last week, he said that the grandparents were the only ones that he was aware of who were receiving benefits. But we're going to continue to keep digging into that. I've put some feelers out on that with the Department of Children and Youth, and we're waiting to hear back. So Ron O'Brien, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been great having you.
Talk with you and look forward to watching your continued reporting on this very terrible circumstance.
Thank you. Now let's discuss this gag order signed by Judge Rogers. The attorney for Gary Siders Jr. filed a motion asking for a gag order, citing the comments made by Ohio Attorney General Andy Wilson that I played for you earlier. Attorney R. Lee Roberts said the comments were putting his client and other defendants at risk of not receiving a fair trial. The judge signed the order prohibiting the sheriff, attorney general, or prosecutor from making statements or releasing information about the case or the evidence. So stay tuned for more on that. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.